This video give you a brief presentation about the project management concept, and we will talk about the definition of projects, the definition of project management, what are the objectives we want to achieve when we plan and manage and control a project, and we will go through the life cycles of the projects and also how the influence of the life cycles on the project cost and other impacts. So basically, what is a project and what is project management? Typically, in a face-to-face class, I stop here and I let you to think about yourself, make your own definitions. And we heard and we use the terms project multiple times, including many term, semester, team project in any class that you learn at FGCU. So you can make your own definition. For this video, I also suggest you to pause and make your own definition of a project before we continue to see what is the formal definition of project based on a professional organization. For example, the one that I use here is Project Management Institute, PMI, a professional organization based in the US, and they define a project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or results. So the two keywords here that you can see is the temporary and unique. And temporary is very important to differentiate a project from an operation. Operation is something routine, frequent. Temporarily, it can be have a beginning and have an end, regardless of the gap between the beginning and an end, how the gap it is. For example, a project can be take a few days, just like your team projects, some of them, right? Or it can take a few weeks, or the civil infrastructure project, wastewater treatment project can take a few years, or it can take 30 years to put the people back to the moon project from NASA, for example. But regardless, that are temporary because we know it start and now it will be end. We talk about the operation, it's opposite of project, when it's not a temporary anymore. Let me give you one example. When a company like Apple produce an iPhone, for example, iPhone 11, and the design team start design the project, and that basically a temporary until they finish that version of the iPhone. And when that got approved, they go to produce, and they can produce thousands, 100,000, millions of units, and that become a routine. Every iPhone look like the same, and that become an operation. So that differentiate between the project and operation. The temporary, unique. That's very important key to differentiate project also from the operation. You design an iPhone, that it will be a unique. But if you produce multiple iPhone, that become operation. You are not unique anymore. In our civil environmental engineering project, you can see that to wastewater treatment plant, it maybe have the same process use, maybe the same user base, Lee County, Collier County, for example. The location will be different, or the party involved will be different. The time to start and finish of different wastewater or water treatment project will be different. That make product or project will be unique. And again, project don't have to be a physical product. It can be service. For example, 2 years, 3 years ago, we thinking about a CM program, construction management program here, or even 5 years ago, that basically a service. And it also unique, as you can see there. And then it can be a resource. So project don't have to deliver a physical product, can deliver a resource or service. But the two keyword is temporary and unique. So with that, we go to the definition of project management. So basically, we apply knowledge, skill, tools, techniques to project activity to meet the project requirements. And that what we emphasize in this class. What are the tools? What are the techniques? What are the knowledge we need to use to manage activity? In this case, the costs, pricing the project, control the project, schedule the project, monitor the project, etc. So that we are going to discuss. And what are the legal framework involved in the project, permitting, etc. That's what we emphasize in this class. So you can see exaggerate picture, and you can tell me what type of bridge is that. Take a look and see, and if you can see that it look like a suspension bridge, right? But in this case, you can see the pavement go up here and go down here, go up. So of course this is exaggerate. No one will going to build this kind of bridge. But the emphasis is that the importance of coordination in the project, and the people may view differently from different parties. And if we don't interpret the need properly, we can lead the project to disaster. And it happened many times in our history, even recent histories. That's why we always continue improve different tools, techniques, etc., including use cutting-edge technology in control, plan, and monitor a project, as you can see. So far, we know the definition of a project management, and the importance of planning a project. Otherwise, the project may lead to a disaster if we don't plan, monitor, and control a project properly. But for any kind of work, we need to have objectives. What are the objectives of a project management? Traditionally, we say to manage a project, we need to ensure the project within budget. So that will be the cost components in this graph. And so within budget, ahead or on schedule, time, and the safety, the quality, etc. But now, when project involving the demand, the need from society increasing, we consider that the other dimension, instead of only focus on the quality, we talk about performance. So performance can think broadly. It can be quality that traditionally people thinking about a project. It can be safety, environmental impact, how to mitigate the impact, sustainability issues, resiliencies. All of that we looking at in performance. Of course, you can spin off the performance into other dimensions, but for this graph, I just make it very simple that to manage project, we need to have multiple dimensions, multiple objectives, and keep that in mind. And on the right hand, you see a balloon. It's supposed to be someone's birthday. If that happened to you, happy birthday. But my purpose here to put the balloon here is not that main purpose for the birthday to someone, but to have a metaphor for managing objective of project. And here's it. Now, everyone wants to reduce the cost of the project, so you have to reduce the cost. Think about the balloon. Reduce is mean that on the left, for example, I squeeze the balloon to reduce the cost one dimension. What do you think? The other dimensions, multiple other dimensions of the balloon. If you squeeze one side, you will see the other side will be inflated, increasing the volume on the other side. What does that mean? The time, the performance will have to be compromised. Keep that in mind. So it's very important when we look at a project, we cannot look at in one dimension. We have to look at holistically, and that requires skill sets and soft skill, hard skill, technical skill to manage a project. Now, every project are temporary, as you can see, regardless of within a few days, or it can last 10 years or 10 years, but they have a life cycle. So in this slide, I'm going to show you what are the typical life cycle, and this one taken from our textbook. For a project, they always start with the first cycle, either market demands and perceived needs. Market demands, for example, now we are in the pandemic, COVID-19, so you see some demand going down, but some going up. For example, virtual conference, virtual meeting, work from home, all of that increasing, they create a new market demand on that. Perceived needs, and let me emphasize on this one because that close to FGCU and our areas. A few years ago, we faced a disaster in the water quality, green algae bloom in our coastal area, rivers, etc. And that create a need. We have to tackle this environmental issue problems. And as a Florida, as a nation, at our region, and at FGCU. Let me give one example here. FGCU think, okay, we, and of course the administration, university, see that we need to create a water school. That the need. From the need, we need to have a water school to tackle the water quality. And of course, when you see that need the water school, we need the human infrastructure, scientists, etc. But when you have scientists, you need to have a lab space, you need to have office, and that we need to have additional buildings. And that's what we need for civil environmental engineering project. In this case, I just give you example, the AB9, Academic Building 9 under construction. So from that need, we define what are the objective and scope should be. We need to have a water school. Scope, it should be tackle the water quality problem. We need your scientists, we need the lab space, and now we need the new building. And from that, we can hire consultants, and with the facility planning division in our FGCU, we do the concept planning and feasibility for AB9, Academic Building 9. So as the result of that, it will come out a conceptual plan and preliminary design to see whether it's feasible to build AB9, feasible in terms of the location, when we have that in our master plan, when we secure funding for that building, etc. What scope look like, how many floor, what are the footprint, all of that in the concept plan and conceptual plan and preliminary design. When all of those feel feasible, we can go ahead to hire engineering firm, and I think some of you may have an intern in the firm that do the AB9, so we have design and engineering. And when design and engineering done, we will have a construction plan and specification, so the detailed engineering are ready for bidding, that is procurement, and then construction. And as the time we talk today, the project already start the construction phase. So those are the first 4 life cycle of the project. So when it about to finish construction, what would we have? We will have startup for occupancy when everything done with construction, complete construction, etc. And then startup for occupancy, we can move in, the faculty in, move the lab in, student get in, staff get in on the space, and that we move on to the next space in operation and maintenance. And when ever the project done, with finish the useful life, we have a disposal of the facility. It can be 50 years, 100 years, depends on the quality of project. Again, the performance we talked earlier also depends on how good maintenance will be performed, etc. But that typical the life cycle, project life cycle that we are talking about. For this class, we focus on the first 4 phases discussed in the previous slide, which is what is the market need, market demand, perceived need, what is the conceptual plan and feasibility study, design and engineering, and construction. Those are the phases we emphasize in the project planning class. But like I say, we can extend to the startup for occupancy, operation and maintenance, and disposal of facility. When we wrap up all of this, it's very important, especially look at the whole life cycle impact of the project, that you will learn other costs such as sustainability in engineering. So far, we learned the different phases of the project, different life cycle stage, and it also learned the project, etc. This figure also extracted from our book to show you how important of the early stage, early phases of the project life cycle affect on the project. That's very important. In the face-to-face class, normally I stop here and let you to think about this graphic. I also suggest you again to stop, think about this before we continue. All right. So this one, let me go to the last slide. As you can see here, this is simple in terms of the cost. So on the right side axis, the construction cost, the more the time come on, the cost will be increasing. So as you can see, a typical project follow an S-curve. So slow start, quick momentum, and slow finish. And that will compare with the airplane. In this case, slow start, like takeoff, airplane takeoff, airplane landing, and then in the middle of the flight, everything very smooth, but they can go very far. So that metaphor for you to see it here at the S-curve for project. And then the other light, talking about ability to influence the cost. Not only the cost, but it can be the quality, the safety, the environmental impact. And as you can see here, very early stage, conceptual planning, feasibility study, design and engineering play the more critical role on the success of the project, rather than when it already come to the operation and maintenance. The ability to influence those dimensions on the project objective will be very limited. Very early stage, very important. So when we do focus more on the early stage, if you want, that's why at the beginning you spend a very little money, but influence so much. That's why I emphasize the previous one. So, and that happened to our daily life. When you plan very hard, very through before we really start anything, so that you can reduce the risks, the negative impact of the work, the project that happened to us. And at that, same as we talk about the airplane takeoff, as you can see here, the takeoff slow, but normally the disaster for the accident of the airplane, as you know, it normally happens when it take off or landing. Same as in here in the project, ability influence. Normally the project problem here, because high roles and then the turnover to the other party. So keep that in mind. But bottom line, as you can see, the early stage get involved, good planning, it will have a high impact, especially positive impact on the project. So with that, we go through the first few concepts of a project.